What's going on YouTube? Today is October 21st, 2025, 8:54 p.m. Pacific Standard at the filming of this video. Nothing in this video is financial advice. Do your own research, form your own opinions. These are just mine. This is going to get spicy, y'all. And I'm going to sound mean to some people. I'm not. It's going to sound cruel and heartless. But if you stay for the whole video, you might just learn a couple things that you didn't know. And you will see that that is not the case. Time to open up another package. Like, subscribe, comment, show some love. Don't know if this is going on Rumble yet. It might not. If it does, and you're watching over there, hit the follow. I still love my one hater. The thumbs down every video over there. Leave a comment, hit the like, show some love. Today we're going to talk about stacking, of course. You know, metals took quote unquote a beating today. Well, they're still doing pretty good. I ain't scared. I'm going to share, this could be a long video by the way, I'm not sure yet. I'm going to share some personal stories, all 100% true. If I was gonna lie, that'd be a whole lot cooler, trust me. Let's get this out. Remember this showed up, I don't know, yesterday, day before, whatever it was. I think it was yesterday. Boom. Boom. Okay. I want to talk about all the rage, man, about all the people online. This comes from Golden State Mint, by the way. About all the rage online about food stamps and SNAP benefits getting cut and changes coming to Section 8. Let's break it down. First of all, when I was a young man, just trying to reestablish his life after making bad decisions and being a worthless mooch, and that's what I was. Didn't realize that's what I was. Didn't understand that's what I was. Didn't really think about it. And that's kind of how it works. Right? And I was just getting my life together. I was in my mid-20s. You know, when I was younger, I was more responsible than I was at this particular point in my life. I lost my way for a few moments in time. And I moved into where I'm at now, to be honest with you. So you can do the math and see that I'm consistent, don't like to change. And I was mowing lawns. You know, mow, edge, blow and go, baby. I was banging out between 15 and 20 a day. And I was working for somebody, so I wasn't making a lot. And I was very, very poor. I moved in here. And what's funny is I was paying about a quarter of the amount of rent I'm paying now. Utilities were way cheaper. My electric has skyrocketed, and I'm one person. One. Back then, I was too broke to have internet. When I did get internet, man, it was AOL dial-up. Can you hear that sound right now? Drove a $1,000 beater truck that was very reliable for the job. And on a good day, if the rent was paid, my electric wasn't this close to getting shut off, and I had $5, $10, you know, to split between, and back then I was a smoker, to split between a $3 cheap pack of generic cigarettes, a $2 10-cent 40-ounce of Bush and about $5 in gas, which was way cheaper back then, that was a good day. And if I had top ramen, and I would mow until I think it was November. We stopped, and March we started. March or April. So I distinctively remember one time in particular, this happened a lot of times, but one time in particular I was at Winco. It used to be called Cub Foods, right? And it's basically your bulk grocery store. It's cheaper than your Safeways, your Fred Meyers, your Kroger's. And I would buy 24 packs of top ramen for like $2.49, because that's what I could afford to eat on a good day. And there's a point to me telling you all this. And it dawned on me one day. And when it dawned on me, it wasn't the first time I saw this. It dawned on me one day when I saw a woman in front of me. And I've seen it happen with men too, don't get it twisted. With a cart full of groceries. The newest flip phone, because back then it was flip phones, dressed very nice. Here I am in raggedy, holey clothes. Literally. Water in my boots. Cold. Tired. Standing in line to pay. And she pulls out an EBT card. And she's got filet mignon. She's got ground beef. She's got chicken. And of course she's got all the crap they eat too, like Twinkies and Cheetos and all that garbage. And I got a case of top ramen, because that's literally all I could afford. And I was working 5 days a week. Busting my ass. And I got angry. And I didn't say anything, I didn't make a scene, but I got pissed. And I thought to myself, how does this person have all these nice things and use my tax dollars and your tax dollars to buy food and eat better than me? In what world does that make any sense? And the kicker, I see her loading up all of her shit in the parking lot, because it takes a while to load a lot of groceries, right? Whereas I have this 124 pack of top ramen, and that's it. I'm going to my beat to hell 1998 landscape 2-wheel drive Ford Ranger that ran good, dented to no end, $1,000 truck, and she gets into a brand new Mercedes. And I really started to think about things. Now fast forward to a couple years later when I started stacking, right? And I didn't stack back then like I stack now because I couldn't afford to. But I started stacking. Fast forward a couple years, I needed a job. So I got 2 pizza delivery jobs because I didn't think I'd make any money, and I was wrong. Those were good times, man. But I got a full-time job, and the only thing I asked was, hey, I need set days off because I got to get a second job on my days off because I got to work 7 days a week because I'm broke. The boss, who's still the boss today, said, no problem, man, I'll take care of it. And that's what I did. I went to a second company on my days off, and I had a great boss there too at the time. Very cool dude. His life has really gone downhill over the last, 10, 12 years, 15 years, which is sad, but killer boss at the time. And that particular company, my part-time company, had it arranged so that you could take EBT, your food stamps, for hot pizza. They had a deal worked out with the state where the customer would have to pay the delivery fee in cash, which eventually evolved into them being allowed to take the cash benefits from their PIN off of their EBT card to pay for it. Because EBT is supposed to be for cold food. But they worked out a deal, right? And mind you, most assets don't count against you when you apply for food stamps. What you already have. They look at income, right? So if you have a 3-bedroom house, don't count against you. Most vehicles, doesn't count against you. I think the vehicle thing, and I'm not sure, I think it counts on value and if you have a certain amount of vehicles, but generally speaking, doesn't count against you. Retirement accounts don't count against you. Money in the bank, however, can. But basically, what you already have doesn't count against you for the most part. What comes in on paper every month does. Lord, I cannot tell you guys. And I worked that job for, geez, man. That job I worked for 6 years probably? 7 years maybe? Between 6 and 8. And I would go deliver to the EBT customers. And let me also say, okay, this is not the case for everybody. Everybody's not the same. There are certain situations where I'm okay with it. So let's break that down right now. And we'll get back to that as well. I'd get in my car, my truck. I would drive the pizza out to you, paying on EBT, knowing that 98% of the time, and that's about what it came out to, I was not going to get a tip. And a good majority of the time I would pull up to, and a lot of them were repeat customers, right? They would get ice cream, pizza, they'd get their pizza, they'd get their ice cream, their sides, their soda. Meanwhile, I can't really afford, well, at this point I guess I could afford that. Things were getting better for me, but I had to work a whole lot to make it happen. But luxury items, okay? And I'd pull up to people living in nicer apartments than me that I knew I was paying for their Section 8 to live in. People living in nicer houses than me. People driving nicer cars than me. And they would order, see, I believe the way it works or worked is that you get your federal food stamps on the day of the month that the last digit of your social security number ends in, so between the 1st and the 9th. I think that's how that worked. I don't know if it still does. So the beginning of the month, these people would all have this money, our money, your money, my money, and they would splurge, man. After a hard week of work, after, because they deserved it. They'd get that pizza, that ice cream, that soda, and they'd have to pay that cash fee, and as time went on, it pretty much was always a PIN transaction off of their EBT card. It was considered different in the eyes of the state. Because, see, food stamps and federal, and most assistance, is federally funded. And then, so the state receives the money from the feds, and then they decide certain ramifications and stipulations on how they're going to dole it out and requirements you have to meet, what is or is not held against you. So the state of Oregon was okay with this. And those who paid in cash for I think it was a $2.50 fee, not only almost never tipped, but almost never had the $2.50. And I got to the point where I would, and they would ask me to cover it. And I got to the point where I would be candid with them. I'd say, nope, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to take your food back unless you find the money, and I'll tell you why. I, along with every other taxpayer, bought your meal. I used my fuel in my vehicle, wear and tear on my vehicle, to drive it out to you. Knowing I'm probably not going to get a tip, the least you can do is use that taxpayer-funded money to pay the minimum delivery fee of $2.50. And that doesn't make me cruel. If you go on TikTok, which I do not very often, I do have a TikTok, I don't use it. I think I have two. And I don't watch TikTok. I watch TikTok that is featured in YouTube videos, okay? And there are a ton of people. A ton of people freaking out that their food stamps, and see, what they're telling people is, hey man, if the government shutdown's not resolved by the end of the month, y'all ain't getting any November benefits. Okay, first of all, the government's always facing a shutdown. Now, and this one has actually held out, but I'm not 100% for sure. that I'm convinced that they're not going to come up with some deal by the end of October. They might not, but the theme is that they generally do. But as it stands, they're telling people, most of y'all ain't going to get food stamps and SNAP benefits because the government shut down, we're not getting the funding. Okay. So people are going on TikTok saying things like they're going to rob, steal food if they have to. Most of y'all ain't going to do shit. Some will. Hungry people do crazy things. They're saying things like, how are people happy about taking food out of my 6 babies' mouths, blah, blah, blah. Well, we're happy about it because we're tired of paying for it. You're the parent. You made those choices. Be the parent. These people. There are so many videos, and I encourage you to watch certain channels, and you can find them. Just type the right words in the search bar, featuring these people talking about how it's a career. They don't want to get a job. The more children they have, the more money that they get from Section 8, the more housing, whatever you want to call it, the more money they get from food stamps. All their babies get that state-funded health care. It's gross. It's disgusting. And it's generational because they teach their children to do this. Yeah, and if you're disabled, like legitimately disabled, I know people growing up, no joke, they were able to figure out a way to get Social Security disability benefits for having ADHD. So let me get this straight. You're robbing the retirees of their retirement and future retirees of their retirement because you can't sit still in school. There's a problem. Okay? What is considered disability in a lot of cases is not disability. If you can walk, if you can talk, if you can hold a conversation, you can hold a job. And it's been far too easy for far too long for these people who abuse the system, and I would venture to say that more probably abuse it than not, to get away with it. So am I for this? 100%. Now, here's the caveat. If you have one child, single mother, hell, even single father, and it was with the wrong person, and you need a little bit of help, cool. But if you continue to make babies, and this becomes your income, this becomes your profession, you need to get off your ass, you need to get a job, and you need to figure it out. And I'm at the point, and I have been for many years, that those types of people should not be allowed to have children. And then we can get in the argument of, oh, that's inhumane to tell people what they can or can't do. Well, it's inhumane to make the taxpayers pay for them to make poor decisions and not be held accountable over and over again and prosper less as a result of their decisions. It's immoral for them to raise generational welfare recipients and teach their babies and teach their babies' babies how to, and make no mistake, how to scam, and they always say the government, make no mistake, the taxpayer. How to scam the taxpayer. This is generational. This is disgusting. Nickel did a video. I've been sitting on this video for a few days now. But I got some silver in again, so I had to open it, and I got to open it on video because that's kind of like my thing now, for the most part. Because I don't want to be one of those fake stacking channels saying, stack metals! If I ain't doing it, I don't believe in that. Or if I don't hold it, I don't believe in that. There's a lot of those channels out there that'll tell you, silver man, blah, 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 gold, blah, blah, blah. But you never see much, if any, on their videos. So I had to do a video because I got some silver. Nickel did a video, and this is something I hadn't even thought of yet until about 4 days ago, when I started seeing videos about this. Will the potential end of food stamps, SNAP, and all that result in grocery stores going out of business? And at first I was like, nah. And then I was like, oh yeah, it might. And now that I'm thinking about it, maybe some. That's a huge income for them. But people will find a way to eat. I think what is more likely is that if y'all are ever been shopping ever, and somebody pays with a food stamp card, you will notice more typically than not, they will have items in their cart like sugared juices, sugared soda, chips, candy, Twinkies, cookies, high sugar pastry items, boxed meals, things of that nature. What I think might happen is the demand for those things might decrease because the funding, if this all takes place, because the funding to fund the people that live off that garbage will decrease. You may find less of those items in the store being replaced by better, healthier items. Who knows? And I will tell you one final story, because I believe in being honest. Back in that period that I was very, very poor, I met a woman that I thought I was going to marry. And I moved her in here with me because she needed a place to stay. Because I'm an idiot. Or I was. And I was just finding my way again. And I was, again, very, very poor. Looking back, I don't know how I was paralyzed, how I wasn't paralyzed with fear of being that poor. I got to the point where I started to become that way, and I think that's when I found my way to silver, and then later gold, and then later stocks and IRAs and stuff. But silver was my first landline to any financial help whatsoever. Maybe that's why I love it so much. Anyway, she broke me financially. I mean, bad. She partied with little money away she had with her friends. Of course, didn't take me anywhere. Bounced checks on my electric bill account, which I got stuck with the fees on, even though I didn't write the check. It was her checks. And it got to the point where I couldn't afford much food. So she gave me her EBT card, and she later moved on to become a pretty successful person. So that's a success story that doesn't usually happen. So that's great, honestly. She sends me to the store because I find myself in a situation at that moment in time where we needed food, and Big Daddy Warbucks didn't have any money because Big Daddy Warbucks didn't have Big Daddy Warbucks. So she hands me her EBT card, gives me the pin, whatever. I go to the store. And I'm not kidding y'all, I'm doing this. I'm trembling because I'm mortified, I'm embarrassed. For my own personal standard. I don't want to be using this, I don't want it around. I'm fundamentally against it, okay? Again, if you are legitimately disabled, and we should employ people to go around and make sure that people drawing benefits are legitimately disabled, because yes, we'll have to pay those people, but I am convinced that if we do that, there will be less abuse of the system and it will save money in the long run. I really am. So if you're disabled, if you're elderly and worked your whole life, and if you're a struggling single mother of one or father of one, that's not who I'm talking about here, okay? I'm talking about the scumbags, the abusers. So I'm sitting there shaking and trembling because I am fundamentally against welfare, and that's exactly what it is. They hate calling it that and using that word, but that's what it is. Because even they know there's something wrong with welfare. Because I'm embarrassed. And I don't want people in line to know how I'm paying, because the cashier's already going to know, and that's bad enough. And I know, so that's bad enough. And I'm trembling so bad out of embarrassment, I drop the card. And of course, it lands face up with that big blue Oregon Trail EBT thing on it. And I swore then and there I would never be so poor that I would have to use someone's EBT card to put food in the house that we shared. And I kept good on that. And again, this isn't for everybody. This is for the abusers, and they are far more prevalent than you think, unless you already know. So that's my take. Is it cold? Is it callous? No. Because deep down, really, I think people shouldn't have kids they can't afford, because I don't think it's good for them, their kids, or the taxpayers. Deep down, I think going to work and being productive and contributing to society makes us better people. And that's what I want for them. Like, subscribe, comment, show some love, keep stacking, baby.